My mother didn't soften her tone. She didn't flinch. She simply stared across the dinner table and said, "We redirected your college savings to pay for your sister's IVF treatments." No apology, no pause. Lauren smirked like it was a private joke I'd eventually learn to appreciate. "You'll get it one day." My dad shuffled the cutlery like he was trying to escape the moment. I felt the entire room shift. But I refused to cry. I didn't ask a single question. I placed my glass down carefully and answered with one word that sliced through everything: refund. And right then, every buried truth in our family, every hidden crack, finally burst open. Before I go further, are you still with me? My name is Camila, and for most of my life, I believed our quiet suburb was a kind of armor. Trimmed hedges, perfect sidewalks, neighbors waving on command. A place where family meant comfort, where promises were solid. But if you're raised on a belief long enough, you don't always see the fractures until the whole foundation collapses. In our house, those fractures always traced back to Lauren. She was a decade older, the forever favorite. From the moment she could form words, her pictures took the mantle. Her awards filled the shelves like trophies in a gallery. Every choice in our home tilted toward whatever made her world easier. I became the kid who blended into the background of her spotlight. The one told, "Let your sister go first, or you can wait, sweetheart. You're younger." Eventually, I learned to step aside before anyone asked. Mom called it balance. Dad said it kept harmony. I thought it was normal until I got old enough to see that normal shouldn't feel like erasing yourself. By the time I finished high school, I had one thing that supposedly belonged only to me: my college savings. My parents talked about it for years. How they'd been contributing since I was a child. How they wanted me to have opportunities. Even when money was tight, they insisted it was untouched. I clung to that promise like it was the doorway out of the shadow I'd lived in. But life rarely moves according to plan. I ended up taking a job as an assistant in a small downtown office, hoping to save enough to reapply to colleges after a gap year. Every morning, I walked to the bus with a cooling coffee in hand, telling myself this was temporary, that soon I'd be back in school, building my own future. I didn't realize that the future I imagined had already been taken. If I had paid closer attention, maybe I would have spotted the warning signs. How Mom avoided money conversations. How Dad looked away whenever I mentioned tuition dates. How Lauren bragged about trying again without once mentioning the cost. But families are strange. People who love you can stare straight at you for years and still hide the thing that will shatter you. So, when my mother finally spoke those words at the table, when she said they'd drained my fund for Lauren's IVF, the shock wasn't that they'd done it. The shock was recognizing how effortlessly they'd done it. That night, I lay awake replaying every second. The composed way Mom delivered the news, the rehearsed smile on Lauren's face, the way Dad folded into silence like he practiced disappearing. One sentence echoed through my head like a faucet dripping in a dark room. "We used your college fund for your sister's IVF." The next morning, I tried convincing myself it couldn't be as severe as it seemed. Maybe Mom had overstated it. Maybe there was still something left. Maybe they misunderstood what those accounts were meant for. Families make mistakes. Families get confused. That's what I told myself as I logged into my online banking during lunch. But when the page loaded, my stomach twisted. The college account was empty, zero, not a single cent, and something else, a notification I'd never seen. A sudden dip in my credit score. Beneath it, a loan listed under my name, a loan I had never taken. For a moment, my hands went numb. Someone had used my identity, my details quietly, confidently, as if they were sure I'd never check, as if they believed I'd never question them. I couldn't tell whether the betrayal or the ease of it scared me more. That night, I approached the topic gently, almost cautiously, like I was trying not to disturb something dangerous. "Mom," I said, standing in the kitchen doorway, "did you or Dad take out anything under my name?" She didn't even turn fully toward me. "Kama, don't start this again. You're exaggerating. We did what was necessary for Lauren." "For Lauren?" I repeated, trying to keep my voice from shaking. She's been going through so much, Mom snapped. This might be her only chance at motherhood. Families, step up. You'll understand one day. The exact same words Lauren used. Same tone. Same entitlement. Something inside me gave way, not loudly, but quietly, like a string pulled to tight, finally breaking. This wasn't support, I said. It was my future. Lauren walked in then, holding a mug she didn't bother drinking from. Oh, stop pretending you're some victim, she said. You're young. You can restart. Some things matter more than school. It wasn't just what she said, it was how casually she dismissed my entire life. Like I was a storage box she could dip into whenever she wanted. In that moment, I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a pattern, a system, a decision they all agreed to. And if I didn't take action now, it would keep happening. The next few days felt like moving through dense fog, heavy, suffocating, endless. I went to work, answered emails, sat through meetings, but all I could think about were those numbers, the empty account, the fraudulent loan, the way Mom brushed it off like I was being dramatic. But fog has a way of clearing when you finally stop pretending you aren't lost. On Thursday evening, I sat at my small apartment table and spread out everything I had, my remaining savings, pay stubs, bank statements, every payment tied to Lauren's treatments. The more I dug, the clearer it became. This wasn't support. This was extraction, organized, deliberate, executed behind my back. At one point, I found a document with my name on a cosigner line I had never touched. I stared at it for a long time, feeling something icy crawl up my spine. Someone had used information only family should have known. I thought about every time Mom asked for my mail so she could help sort it. Every holiday, when Dad requested my social security card just in case. Every moment I trusted them without hesitation. Suddenly, my apartment felt suffocating. I stepped outside into the cool night air, quiet, settling, studying, and walked until my heartbeat slowed. The next morning, I showed Jade the loan on my credit report. She stared at it, then at me. Camiller, that's not a mistake. I nodded. I know, you can't let this keep happening. I don't intend to. That was the shift from shock to clarity. That evening, I drove to my parents' house. Mom was folding towels in the living room. Lauren sat on the couch scrolling through her phone. They barely glanced at me, like I was an unwelcome interruption. I placed a folder on the coffee table. Mom looked up. What's this? Proof, I said, of everything I never authorized. Lauren rolled her eyes. You're overreacting? No, I said quietly. I'm stating facts. She TENSED. Mom flipped through the pages quickly, irritation tightening round her eyes. Where did you even get all of this? My accounts, my statements, my credit report. For the first time, they had no immediate comeback. I inhaled deeply. If you want to talk about this, meet me at the clinic tomorrow. All of you. Lauren frowned. Why? Because it's time you heard the truth from the one person none of you can argue with. I walked out before they could respond, letting the door close behind me. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was shrinking. The next afternoon, the sky was low and gray, one of those muted days where the world seems to hold its breath. I parked outside the clinic and watched my family arrive one by one. Lauren showed up first, stepping out of her car in a beige coat, chin lifted like she was stepping into a meeting she already controlled. Mark followed her, eyes down, shoulders tight. Then Mom and Dad arrived together, but not completely together. Mom's jaw was clenched, Dad's expression blank. None of them acknowledged me as we walked inside. The receptionist greeted us politely. You're here for the consultation? I nodded, though consultation felt far too gentle for what was coming. We were guided into a small private room, white walls, soft lighting, a round table at the center. It was painfully calm compared to everything boiling underneath. Lauren slumped into a chair with a frustrated sigh. I still don't get why we're here, she muttered. You will, I said, sitting across from her. My voice was steady, shockingly steady. Mom leaned forward. Camiller, if this is another attempt to guilt trip us, this isn't about guilt, I interrupted. This is about honesty. Before anyone could reply, the door opened and Dr. Malpatel stepped in, a woman in her 50s with gentle eyes and calm authority that made everyone straighten slightly. Lauren immediately fixed her posture and smoothed her hair, trying to look composed. "Thank you for coming," Dr. Patel said, taking a seat. "I understand there has been some confusion about treatments and financial decisions made over the past year." Confusion, or generous word. To generous, Lauren flashed a sweet smile. "Yes, my family seems to think there's been some kind of misunderstanding." Dr. Patel folded her hands. "Then let's clear things up." Lauren's expression held a quiet smugness. She fully believed the doctor would support her. She had no idea what I had asked the clinic earlier that morning. Not confidential records, not private medical details, just clarification of decisions Lauren herself had insisted they frame a certain way. Dr. Patel sighed softly. "Lauren, when you first came to us, we reviewed the underlying fertility challenges you and Mark were facing." Lauren stiffened. I don't know what you mean." Dad shifted. Mark froze. Dr. Patel continued gently. "You've been aware since your initial screening that your results were completely normal. The difficulty conceiving wasn't on your end." Silence struck the room like a dropped weight. Mom blinked. "What, then why?" "Because she requested we present the issue differently," Dr. Patel said with compassion, glancing at Mark. "Lauren was adamant that she didn't want anyone to know. She asked us to frame the situation as if she were the one struggling, not him." Lauren shot to her feet. "You're violating my privacy." Dr. Patel shook her head. "I'm not revealing anything that you haven't already discussed openly in prior sessions. I'm simply clarifying decisions you made, decisions that impacted your family financially." Mom's face went pale. Dad rubbed his forehead like he'd been hit. I leaned in, my voice a low bleed. "So the college money wasn't used because Lauren was struggling. It was used to protect her pride." Lauren spun toward me. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," I said. "You didn't want to admit the truth, so you took what wasn't yours." Her voice cracked. "I just wanted a chance at a family." "Why is that so wrong?" "Nothing," I replied quietly. "But taking my future wasn't your decision to make." Mom looked between us, guilt finally surfacing, but far too late. "Lauren, how could you let us think? You always said Camila could wait." Lauren snapped. "You told me she was young. You practically encouraged me to use the money." Mom's mouth opened, then shut. She had no defense. Mark finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Lauren, this was too much." She rounded on him. "You weren't supposed to say anything." He stared at the floor, and for the first time, I saw how worn down he looked, how long he'd been carrying shame that wasn't entirely his. Dr. Patel spoke softly. "Secrets get heavier the longer we hold them." I pulled the folder from my bag and placed it on the table. Bills, payment trails, statements, and the fraudulent loan. Lauren stared at it as if it were explosive. "This," I said, tapping the folder, "is everything you used without my consent. Everything you treated as yours." "I'm not here to yell," I continued. "I'm here to return it to the rightful owners." Mom looked horrified. "Camila, we'll fix it. We'll handle the loan. I know," I said, "because starting today, it's not mine to carry." Dad swallowed hard. "We never meant to hurt you. You didn't think about hurting me," I said. "You didn't think about me at all." There was a long stretch of silence. Then I exhaled. "I'm done being the easy one, the patient one, the one who can wait. From now on, any debt tied to my name gets handled legally. Any financial connection between us ends now." Lauren's face twisted. "So that's it? You think you're better than us?" "No," I whispered. "I just finally believe I matter." The air shifted after that lighter for me, crushing for them. I stood, gathered my things, and nodded to Dr. Patel. As I walked toward the door, Mom reached for me. "Camila, please wait." I paused, but didn't look back. "You treated my future like loose change," I said. "I'm reclaiming it." Then I stepped out, letting the door close behind me. Outside, the air felt crisp and pure, like the first breath of a new life. For the first time ever, the quiet around me didn't feel lonely. It felt liberating. In the days afterward, The consequences settled slowly, like dust after a collapse. No screaming matches, no dramatic scenes, just the inevitable fallout when truth finally surfaces. Lauren called once. I ignored it. Mom tried twice. Straight to voicemail. Dad texted a short message. We're taking care of the loan. Not an apology, but an acknowledgement. And that was enough. Mark reached out to not with excuses, but with honesty. I'm sorry for what I allowed. I should have spoken up. His sincerity surprised me more than anything else. Lauren and Mom, meanwhile, were forced to sit with the reality of their choices. Without my fund cushioning everything, the financial strain fell squarely on them. Lauren's flawless image began to crack. Her cheerful updates about treatments vanished. Her constant smiling posts disappeared. Mom grew quieter, choosing her words more carefully, finally realizing that silence didn't equal safety. I moved into a tiny apartment near downtown, creaky floors, thin walls, but sunlight that warmed the bed every morning. I bought a cheap desk, set it by the window, and spent evenings working on my college applications. For the first time, the future I pictured wasn't controlled by anyone else. It belonged to me. One evening, Jade arrived with takeout and a grin. You look lighter, she said. I feel lighter, I admitted. And it was true. The hurt was still there, but it had shifted. It wasn't suffocating anymore. It was the ache of recovery, of growth. When I hit submit on my first college application, a calm certainty washed over me, something I'd never felt before. I was no longer an extra in my own family story. I was choosing myself. I used to believe family was something you protected at any cost. But now I understand something deeper. Protecting yourself isn't betrayal, it's survival. The day I walked out of that clinic, I didn't just step away from their decisions. I stepped into my own life for the very first time. In submitting those applications, that was my refund. Not in cash, but in confidence, in purpose, in reclaiming what was stolen. If my story mirrors yours, if you've ever had to fight for your own future, tell me where you're listening from. Share your experience in the comments and subscribe so you never miss the next one.